It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway for Emma, a young woman traveling alone for a weekend retreat. She booked a charming little cottage on Airbnb, hoping to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. The pictures looked cozy, and the reviews were excellent. When she arrived, the place was just as she had imagined: quaint, clean, and perfect for a relaxing weekend. The first night was uneventful. Emma cooked dinner, watched some TV, and read a book before going to bed. However, the next day, things took a sinister turn. She spent the day exploring the nearby town and returned to the cottage in the late afternoon. As she entered the house, she noticed something odd. The closet door in the bedroom was slightly ajar. Emma was sure she had closed it before leaving. She shrugged it off, thinking maybe she had forgotten. That night, as she lay in bed, she heard soft, almost imperceptible noises coming from the closet. It sounded like rustling or whispering. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, but she convinced herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. She pulled the covers over her head and eventually fell asleep. The next morning, she found the closet door wide open. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. She checked the closet thoroughly but found nothing unusual. Determined not to let her fear ruin her weekend, she decided to ignore it. That night, the noises returned, louder this time. Emma could distinctly hear breathing and the faint creak of the closet door moving. Terrified, she grabbed her phone and called the host, explaining the situation. The host assured her that the house was safe and that no one else had access. Reluctantly, Emma stayed, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She slept with the lights on and a chair wedged under the doorknob. In the middle of the night, she woke up to the sound of the closet door creaking open. Emma froze, paralyzed with fear. She could see a shadowy figure standing inside the closet. Summoning all her courage, she bolted out of bed, grabbed her keys, and ran out of the house. She drove to a nearby hotel and spent the rest of the night there. The next morning, Emma returned to the cottage with the police. They searched the house and found a hidden passage behind the closet. It led to a small room where someone had been living. The police discovered blankets, food wrappers, and personal items. Emma was horrified. The thought that someone had been living in the house, watching her every move, made her skin crawl. She left the cottage immediately and never looked back. The host was arrested, and the listing was removed from Airbnb. Emma's peaceful retreat turned into a nightmare she would never forget. Weeks after the incident, Emma still couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She kept replaying the events in her mind, trying to understand how she had missed the signs. She wondered about the person who had been living in the secret room. Who were they? Why were they there? These questions haunted her, and she found herself unable to sleep peacefully at night. Emma decided to do some research on the cottage. She discovered that the property had a dark history. It had once belonged to an eccentric man who was known for his strange behavior. Rumor had it that he had built the secret room to hide from imaginary enemies. After his death, the cottage had been abandoned for years before being renovated and listed on Airbnb. The revelation added another layer of horror to Emma's experience. She realized that the person who had been living in the closet might have been mentally disturbed, believing they needed to hide from some unseen threat. This thought made her shudder, and she was grateful that she had escaped unharmed. Emma shared her story with friends and family, warning them to be cautious when booking accommodations online. She also wrote a detailed review on Airbnb, describing her ordeal and urging others to be vigilant. The experience left a lasting impact on her, making her more cautious and aware of her surroundings. Despite the terrifying experience, Emma continued to travel. She refused to let fear control her life. However, she always made sure to thoroughly check any place she stayed in, looking for hidden passages or signs of intrusion. The man in the closet had taught her a valuable lesson about trust and safety, and she was determined never to let her guard down again. were a young couple looking forward to a romantic weekend away. They booked a beautiful old house on Airbnb, nestled in the countryside. The house had character, with antique furniture and a rustic charm that appealed to them. They arrived on a Friday evening, excited to spend some quality time together. The first night went smoothly. They cooked a delicious dinner, enjoyed a glass of wine by the fireplace, and then retired to the cozy bedroom. The bed was comfortable, and they fell asleep quickly. However, in the middle of the night, Lisa woke up to the sound of footsteps. She nudged David, who groggily listened, and confirmed that he heard them too. The footsteps were coming from the hallway outside their bedroom. David got up to investigate, thinking it might be another guest or the owner. He checked the hallway and the rest of the house, but found nothing. Puzzled, he went back to bed, and they managed to fall asleep again. The next morning, they discussed the incident, but decided it was probably just the old house settling. The second night, the footsteps returned, louder and more insistent. This time, they were accompanied by the sound of doors opening and closing. David and Lisa were both wide awake, their hearts racing. They decided to search the house together, armed with a flashlight. As they moved from room to room, they found nothing out of the ordinary. No signs of forced entry, no other guests, nothing. Feeling uneasy, they returned to their bedroom. As they settled back into bed, the noises started again, this time coming from within their room. The closet door creaked open slowly, and they saw a shadowy figure standing inside. Lisa screamed, and David grabbed a lamp, ready to defend them. But the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Terrified, they grabbed their belongings and left the house, driving to a nearby motel. They reported the incident to the Airbnb host, who seemed genuinely shocked and apologized profusely. The host claimed that no one else had access to the house and that it had no history of strange occurrences. The next day, the host called them with an eerie revelation. The previous owner of the house had passed away in the bedroom closet, and it was rumored that their spirit still lingered. The host offered a full refund and promised to investigate further. David and Lisa decided not to stay another night and returned home, their romantic weekend ruined by the phantom guest. Weeks later, David and Lisa couldn't shake the memory of their terrifying experience. They had always been skeptical about ghosts and the supernatural, but the encounter in the old house made them reconsider their beliefs. They wondered if the spirit of the previous owner was trying to communicate with them, or if it was simply reliving its final moments. To find some closure, they decided to do some research on the house and its history. They discovered that the previous owner, Mr. Thompson, had lived there for over 50 years. He was a reclusive man, rarely seen by neighbors, and there were rumors that he had died under mysterious circumstances. Some locals believed that his spirit was trapped in the house, unable to move on. David and Lisa reached out to a paranormal investigator to see if they could uncover more about the ghostly presence. The investigator, intrigued by their story, agreed to visit the house with them. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and other ghost hunting equipment, they returned to the old house, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. During the investigation, the team experienced several unexplainable events. They heard the same footsteps and doors opening and closing, just as David and Lisa had described. The cameras captured strange shadows and orbs of light, and the audio recorders picked up faint voices that seemed to be saying, "Help me." The investigator concluded that the house was indeed haunted by the spirit of Mr. Thompson, who might be seeking help to move on to the afterlife. David and Lisa felt a mix of relief and sadness. They were relieved to have their experience validated, but saddened by the thought of Mr. Thompson's restless spirit. The investigator performed a cleansing ritual, hoping to help the spirit find peace. As they left the house for the last time, David and Lisa felt a sense of closure, knowing they had done what they could to help. Their encounter with the phantom guest left a lasting impression on them. They continued to share their story with friends and family, raising awareness about the possibility of haunted places and the importance of respecting the unknown. The experience brought them closer together as they navigated the fear and uncertainty side by side. David and Lisa's romantic weekend had turned into a haunting experience, but it also opened their minds to the mysteries of the supernatural. They learned to approach life with a newfound sense of wonder and respect for the unseen forces that might be at play. The phantom guest had not only scared them, but also taught them valuable lessons about belief, compassion, and the unknown. Michael was an adventurous traveler who loved staying in unique and offbeat places. When he found an old farmhouse listed on Airbnb, he couldn't resist. The farmhouse was located in a remote area surrounded by fields and forests. It was the perfect spot for a quiet, solitary weekend away from the city. He arrived in the late afternoon and was immediately charmed by the rustic beauty of the place. The host had left a welcome note and some homemade cookies, which made Michael feel at home. After settling in, he decided to explore the property. The farmhouse had an old barn, a small pond, and plenty of trails to hike. As night fell, Michael lit a fire in the fireplace and settled down with a book. The peace and quiet were exactly what he needed. However, as he was about to go to bed, he heard a faint whispering sound. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the whispers grew louder and seemed to be coming from the walls. He tried to ignore it, but the whispering continued, along with occasional thumps and creaks. Michael was unnerved, but decided to stay put. He eventually fell asleep, only to be woken up by a loud bang. The front door had slammed shut on its own. Heart pounding, he got up to investigate, but found nothing out of place. The next day, he mentioned the noises to the host, who brushed it off as the house settling and the wind. Michael wasn't convinced, but decided to give it another night. That evening, the activity escalated. Objects moved on their own, and he heard footsteps upstairs, even though he was the only one there. The whispering voices were clearer, and he could almost make out words. Feeling a sense of dread, Michael decided to leave. As he was packing his bags, he saw a shadowy figure standing at the top of the stairs, watching him. He froze, unable to move, as the figure slowly descended. Gathering all his courage, he ran out of the house, jumped into his car, and sped away. Michael reported the incident to Airbnb and the host. The host seemed surprised and apologized, offering a refund. Later, Michael learned from locals that the farmhouse had a dark history. It was said to be haunted by the spirits of a family who had died there under mysterious circumstances. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Michael decided to investigate further. He reached out to local historians and former residents of the area, hoping to uncover more about the farmhouse's past. What he discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The farmhouse had been built in the late 1800s by a family named the Bennets. They were a quiet, hard-working family who kept to themselves. However, tragedy struck when the entire family was found dead under mysterious circumstances. The official cause of death was never determined, but rumors spread that they had been victims of a violent and unseen force. The experience left a profound impact on Michael. He had always been a skeptic when it came to the paranormal, but the events at the farmhouse made him reconsider his beliefs. He realized that there were mysteries in the world that couldn't be easily explained, and he developed a newfound respect for the unknown. Michael continued to travel and explore unique places, but he always carried the lessons he learned from the haunted farmhouse. He remained cautious and respectful of the history and energies of the places he visited. The experience taught him that adventure could sometimes lead to unexpected and profound encounters with the supernatural. Before we end, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can join us for more terrifying true stories.